Feels like I'm falling with no parachute. If only for I could fly. If I could be that guy, I'll give you everything. Everything. Good evening, pop pickers. That was our very own Ian Ponty Pont with no parachute, mates. Don't think you'll catch me jumping out of a plane with no parachute. Not half. Here we are, pop pickers, to the 15th Masked Cricketer. Fan-dabby dozy. Pop-tastic to you all. Good evening. Welcome. And that's your last chance, because this is the last one in the series, to hashtag Ask the Mask. Nice. Great. Daz Club. Kieran. K-Dog. Always like a little K-Dog on the program. How you doing, my great mate?
Hi there, my great mate. This is all for charity, mate, not half. Yeah, welcome to the Masked Cricketer. I'm sorry, I'm not going to put an accent on because you are the doyen of costumes, and yeah, welcome everybody to the last Masked Cricketer of the series, number 15. We can't believe we've gone through 15 episodes of this fantastic series, and tonight's going to be another cracker, and we hope that we get lots of questions, lots of people trying to guess who tonight's Masked Cricketer is, all in aid, as we all know, of the Lord's Taverners, who we've been raising funds and awareness for through our Just Giving page over the last 15 weeks. If you can donate, please do so via the link at the bottom of the page there. That will be scrolling on the screen throughout the evening. And also a big thank you once again this evening to Graham Woodward of Grape Mines in Oxford, in Summertown, who is again providing a prize of a bottle of something nice, white or red, to the person who guesses first correctly this evening. The 15th and final Masked Cricketer. It's the final one, but it's not our last ever. We're going to be back by unpopular demand in the autumn. We've got some great guests lined up in the autumn as well. So, yeah, really looking forward to this evening. Over to my great mate, Smashy Woods. Over to you.
Thanks, my great mate, K-Dog. That's absolutely fantastic. Pop-tastic, it really is. We do a lot of work for charity, but we don't like to mention it. But we're going to mention it because the scroll is down the bottom of the screen there, mates. Just Giving page for the Masked Cricketer and the Lord's Taverners. Make sure you're donating if you possibly can. Right, I think we've got to get our Masked Cricketer on, mate. And here we go. Blimey, it's Ant-Man.
Blimey, it's Airwolf.
Welcome to, thank you, our 15th and last one for this series, Masked Cricketer. I'm dropping the accent now. I'm getting serious. So here we go. My first question is, have you ever played at Great Chew Cricket Club?
I'll never get that question.
It's a no. It's a nod of the head. It's a no. Another one, Kieran, that hasn't played at Great Chew. How rude. I don't know. Everybody plays at Great Chew. I don't know.
Not the last two haven't. So.
We've had quite a few guesses in already previous to tonight's episode. So I'm going straight with a couple here. Are you Robert Franklin? Not Robert Franklin. Big, bold left arm. Yeah, really good. He used to have all different, rubber ball one way was the orthodox ball, rubber ball another way on his trousers, and it was the one going the other way, and the keeper just used to get really confused by it all. It was ridiculous. Another question. It says it must be, or hashtag it must be Megson. Are you Neil Megson? Not
He's thinking
Megson.
Neil Megson.
Sorry, guys, we didn't stoop that low.
I had a guest yesterday as well, Daryl, from somebody just from the promo. So I'll put this one in straight away as well. Are you Alex Stewart?
Not Alex Stewart.
No. I've just got a butt in, Daryl, before we carry on. Ian Royal from the OCA League's on tonight. He has said that he will donate money to the charity if you say something nice about the OCA. So over to you.
Fantastic. Actually, the OCA, in all seriousness, did make life... Well, they let everybody know, the clubs know how they were going to go about coming back into cricket. And I think they kept people involved and actually kept them informed of what was happening. So actually, I would say thumbs up to the OCA for doing that. I think they did really, really well from that point of view. So if that's help to get some more money in, Ian, I thank you very, very much. That's really brilliant of you. But I do think, and I do mean that. I know I've joked in the last 14 episodes, but I do mean that. The OCA did a really good job.
14 years, more like.
14 years, yeah, you're probably right. But I do mean that. I must admit. Great. Have we got any other questions coming in?
Yes, we have. So, Masked Cricketer, are you still playing cricket? No.
Oh, okay.
Not still playing. Have you ever played cricket in the Home Counties Premier League or the Cherwell League? No.
No. It's a no. Okay. Right. That's interesting. Have you played first-class cricket? Oh. That's good. Another first-class cricketer on our hands here. K-Dog, this is good. I think the follow-up question's got to be, hasn't it? As we've had two England legends in the past 2 weeks. Have you played at any level for England? Yeah. We've got another one on our hands here, Kieran. I'm just going to put that up on. Obviously, Ian Royal has said that's enough. Checks in the post. Brilliant. Make sure you go to that Just Giving page at the bottom there, Ian, because that goes to Oxfordshire Disability Cricket. So that would be absolutely brilliant. And I do thank you again for that. Kieran, any more questions?
Are you a former... Chris Lean has asked this. We can't have three in a row, surely. Are you a former England captain? No.
Captain.
Not a former England captain.
That would have been, to do that 3 weeks running would have been some effort. But we've had three England players, so this is good. We've said at any level, so I'm going to say, have you played Test match cricket? Another international, Kieran, Test match level.
Fantastic.
That's
because I was wearing an Australian shirt last week, and Mike Gatting, who was our Masked Cricketer, was absolutely gutted that I was. I'm going to ask, have you played Test match cricket for Australia? So it wasn't the person you were talking to on the phone yesterday, then, Daryl.
Actually, there's just a call coming through. Actually, Kieran, I'll just take this again.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, Ricky. I told you last night, mate. We got somebody better than you on. Keep in touch, and we'll speak soon. Yep. Cheers, Ponty. Cheers, mate. Bye. Sorry about that. Keep being interrupted by an Australian. Terrible.
Questions are flying in, Daryl. So, are you a bowler, Masked Cricketer? Are you a bowler? You are a bowler. Okay. Have you taken, so we're getting into sort of potential legend status, so you've played Test cricket. I'll ask first, have you played Test cricket for England? You have. So we've had 2 legendary batsmen. So have we got a legendary bowler? Have you taken more than 100 Test wickets?
Oh, fantastic.
He has. Have you taken more than 200 Test wickets? Daryl, you've got another legend. You've got another legend for us.
We don't just throw this program together, Kieran. Oh, yes, we do. Yeah. Have a guess of, are you Matthew Hoggard? No, it's not Hoggy. It's not Hoggy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you Darren Goff?
Not Goffy. It's not Goffy. Okay, no Strictly.
Yeah.
Are you Dominic Cork? Not Dominic Cork. We are assuming you are of a particular age, actually, Kieran. We haven't asked that question, have we?
We haven't, so we will ask. Are you over 50? Do we have another over 50 for Daryl's over 50 team on our hands?
It's another over 50. Right, I can get another one signed up here. K-Dog.
This is what you're doing, Daryl. This is what you're doing. You're trying to
very, very good. Yeah.
You're trying to get the best over 50 side ever.
I've got to try somehow, haven't we? Got to try somehow. Oh, brilliant. This is good, isn't it?
This is excellent. So you're over 50. Did you play? So we've asked about Dominic Cork and Darren Goff. Did you play? I'm guessing you may have done if you're over 50. Did you play in the same team as Dominic Cork and Darren Goff? Okay. Master cricketer, are you Phil Tufnell? We've had another guest.
It's not Tuffers. It's not Tuffers, guys. It's not Tuffers. Brilliant. Some great questions coming in.
Absolutely.
Would you class yourself as an all-rounder, Master cricketer? No. Okay.
No.
So lower order.
Have we had? We've had Nigel Hughes asked whether you're Matthew Hoggard. Are you Matthew Hoggard?
No, he's not Hoggy.
Not Matthew Hoggard.
I think we might be close to getting a guess here, Kieran. I think
we really are. Yes, I think we are. So you look Phil Tufnell. Let's have another think. So you've taken more than 200 Test wickets. So have you ever played in an Ashes winning series? You haven't. Ian Royals just asked, are you a seamer or a spinner? But that's not really a yes/no, is it? So we'll ask, are you a seam bowler?
Seamer. Okay.
This is outside the box a bit because he has played for England. He is a seam bowler. Are you Jonathan Agnew?
Whoa, that was close. I thought we were going to get a nod there, Kieran, for a minute. I thought we were going to get a nod. Not Agnew. Okay. Very good.
Okay. We are certainly getting close. We've had a few other guesses. So you played in the same team as Darren Goff. Did you have a friendly rivalry with Darren Goff and bowl in tandem with him?
There we go.
Getting there.
I think I might be revealing the last Master cricketer of this series, K-Dog. What do you think?
I think there's a chance. There is a question from Mervyn, who's overseas in Corfu at the moment. Have you got a? I guess you have with the helmet. Have you got a pilot's license, Master cricketer? Do you have a pilot's license?
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
Did you play for Middlesex? We'll get these questions in. Didn't play for Middlesex. Right. We've had a couple of guesses. Did you play for Somerset? Right, I think we're narrowing it down, Daryl.
Definitely narrowing it down. That's a
Any more
sure fact.
questions? Right, so we've had 2 guesses. We've had Paul Harris and we've had Nigel Hume that have guessed. I don't see any others at the moment. Did you make, Nigel's just asking, did you make your county championship debut in 1992?
Somebody knows their stuff. Well done, Nigel. That's good stuff.
Very accurate question. I think he was Googling that. I think he knows who it is. So we've had 2 guesses with the same name. Daryl, I'm happy for you to unveil the mask if you wish to.
I'm going to ask the question. Are you the legend opening quick bowler that is Andrew Caddick? Hey! Ah, brilliant.
That's a good one. That is the best mask so far, by the way.
Yeah, quality. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. How you doing? Isn't that a bit hot under that?
Bit hot, yeah.
Well, we tried to keep you under there as long as we possibly could, to be honest, because we did have your name up after about 8 minutes, but we thought we'd just roll with it a little bit longer. So apologies for that.
Good job.
I always ask this, Andrew. Obviously, over the last few months, it's been a difficult time for a lot of people. But how have you been coping over the last sort of 3 or 4 months? How's things been going for you?
No, it's been tough, but we've been fortunate down here in the southwest. It's been pretty low key as far as the events overpass around the world. We live in a house in a village. So we're quite fortunate. I've got to feel sorry for the people who've been living in apartments and detached houses with no gardens, and it's hard work. I've been fortunate; we've got a large garden here, so but yeah, it's been tough. But unfortunately, that's the things we have to do, and I'm sure it's going to carry on again. So we just got to keep our fingers crossed that people abide by the rules at the moment and do it for the greater good, really, because I don't think this pandemic's going away very quickly. No,
absolutely. We had Mike Gatting on last week, and he mentioned the gardening was definitely down to Mrs. Gatting. Is the gardening down to you, or is it the wife?
Yeah, most of it. All the hedges and trees have been trimmed. Gets to the point where all I do now is mow the lawns. Most of it's done. So, and then the wife started getting me indoors to paint rooms and bits and pieces. So, I was doing all right until B&Q opened.
Yeah.
The paint and everything. So, damn B&Q for opening and allowing me to have to go get paint.
Oh, B&Q, yeah. I know what you're saying, actually. It's very similar here, but no, brilliant. I was reminded there, actually, when I saw Andrew Strauss on a thing he did for Aston Rowan Cricket Club locally, and he had one of these automatic mowers in the background while he was on film, so it was all being done for him whilst he was on screen. So that was quite.
I don't have that. I have my son pushing the lawnmower. That's automatic enough for me.
Brilliant. Andrew, I'm going to come on to your career. I think I'm going to sort of start really with your transition between New Zealand and England, and how that sort of came about, and what you had to go through to do that. What was that an easy transition, or was there some sort of loopholes that you needed to go through?
Firstly, I came to England in 1987. I didn't come here to play cricket. Well, I came to play a bit of club cricket, but I didn't come here to be an England cricketer. I came to have a look around. Most Kiwis do. Left school, jumped on a plane. I had family in London. My father's older sister lives in London, so I lived with them for 6 months. I worked here, and I played a little bit of cricket. And I play with a club called Hampstead Cricket Club, just up Hampstead Hill. Not Hampstead Hill, it was near I can't remember the road now, but it'll come to me in a minute. Finchley Road it was. I was just off Finchley Road, and I turned up there. my uncle and aunt knew they had contacts at Bronsbury Cricket Club and Hampstead. So I decided I'll go to Hampstead, ask them if they wanted to play a bit of cricket, and they said, well, we don't really know how good you are. So they played me on the Saturday on the second team. I scored 80 odd, took 8 wickets, and they said, well, next week you can play for the first team. So I started playing at Hampstead, and I came back for 3 years. In between that, I played a little bit of Middlesex YC's cricket as an overseas player, because back then, for club, or should I say, for county cricket, you could play, I think it was 2 or 3 overseas players and trialists in your second team. So I did that. I played a little bit, as I said, Middlesex YC's, played a little bit Middlesex seconds. There was a gentleman called Clive Radley who was then the coach at Middlesex, and did reasonably well. But my break came when the chief exec of Hampstead Cricket Club was a very good friend of the then Somerset coach Jack Birkinshaw. So I managed to get a trial match for Somerset. They put me forward, played a game against played a game here at Taunton against an Australian university touring side. And we had, if anybody remembers, Roland Lefebvre, who was a Dutch lad. He was trialling at the same time as me. Now, Taunton back then, if you think the road outside is flat, Taunton was flat. It was one of the best wickets in the world, to be honest about it. We had Jimmy Cook at the time scoring 1,000 runs before the end of May. And for 2 consecutive seasons, I think he scored over 2,500 runs. So at that stage, Taunton was flat. I got smashed to all parts by this Australian university side, and I thought that was my opportunity gone. But luckily, we travelled the next day up to the Surrey Oval. We played against the second team, it's Surrey's second 11 team. We bowled first. I took 8 for 32, and the rest is history. Somerset signed me up there and then. We looked at the processes associated with me qualifying as an English cricketer. The one thing that people don't realise is that, or don't understand, is I did not come to England to play cricket to start with. I came to have a look around. But when I saw the opportunities that were there to be a professional cricketer, because I played a bit of underage cricket in New Zealand, New Zealand cricket was very amateurish. You had to have a job outside playing cricket. And the cricket season in New Zealand was probably, especially for first class cricket, was only 2 months. It was very short. So you had to have, I knew a number of players who played for Canterbury who had to have their outside jobs, and their bosses would give them the time off to go and play first class cricket in New Zealand. And for me, I wanted to be a professional cricketer. So when the opportunity came with Somerset, I jumped at it because it meant that I became a professional cricketer doing what I wanted to do, which was play cricket professionally. And that's where it started back in 1991, playing for Somerset.
That's a fantastic story. That's really amazing, actually, how that came about. You mentioned Jack Birkinshaw. Jack Birkinshaw's come up quite a few times on this program. Actually, was he quite an inspirational character at the time for you?
He was just a good coach. He's a good all-round coach. I think the issues back in the late 80s, early 90s was that the wickets around the country weren't very conducive to producing good cricketers. Taunton was very flat. The Oval was very flat, but true and quick. Surrey, Lancashire, Old Trafford was flat, but reasonably placed. And you were coming off the back of places like Notts when you had Rice and Hadley. So I was coming on the back of that. So that'd been there. Then the wicket at Old Trafford, Trent Bridge, was green and did a lot. So you had those differences in pitches around the country, but the majority of it was mainly geared up for batters. The only good scenario back then was that you could play overseas players in second and first class cricket. So you might have had 2 or 3 overseas players, and they played in the second team and they played in the first team, so you could rotate them. And the beauty of that was, as well, was you had some serious second team cricket going on. And that's one of the things I find with English cricket is being let down by, is that we don't have I don't feel we have strong second team cricket in the country, producing those players to go on to first and then on to test level cricket. because the more cricket you play at a higher level, the better you get. Back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, you had some serious players playing in second team cricket, also playing in test match and first class cricket. So it was very well managed. So it was an exciting time. Jack was a good all-out coach. He moved on, and people like Bob Cottam came along, and then we had Kevin Shine come on board, then Dermot Reeve, and then it went on to Andy Hurry, and then so on and so forth over the many years. But the nice thing about Somerset was a very much family-orientated club. Great atmosphere, good bunch of lads, and very much it wasn't like a professional, test team or test club, as I say, like Surrey. It was a very much centred around the family atmosphere, and that's the one thing that's great about Taunton. The ground here at Taunton is in the middle of the town, so it's very much a county that's enveloped by the supporters around the town.
You're absolutely right. I remember played for Oxfordshire against Somerset Twos, and a certain Martin Crowe played against us. So that was the standard back then. It was amazing. Kieran, I've kept you under wraps. I know. I'm going to say, obviously, we're doing this for the Lord Taverners. The scrolling down the bottom there is our Just Giving page. If you've had a bit of entertainment again tonight, and want to ask some more questions, but please donate to that Just Giving page if you can. That would be absolutely brilliant. Kieran, I know I've kept you under wraps again. I'm going to let you loose on Andy.
It's very rare for me to be quiet for so long, Andrew. So Daryl's done a good job there. And I want to talk about your domestic career initially, and then obviously move on to your hugely successful international career. So domestically, you made your county championship debut in '92, and I think you pretty much came to the party straight away. You were among the wickets very early, taking 4 wickets against Gloucestershire. At that point, when you made your county debut, were you at that stage thinking perhaps you had the opportunity of playing international cricket?
Not really, no, because the benefits between when I was signed up for Somerset back in my trial match, the benefits were that at the time I had to qualify to play for England, and I had to do 5 years. So the 5 years were counted as 87, 88, 89. What's that? 87, 88, 89, 90, 91. So the benefit I had with the fact that I was doing I was qualifying in 1991. I played a lot of second team cricket, and that put me in good stead as second team cricket. So I remember my last second team year, before I qualified the following year, I took 96 second team wickets in the championship and the second team championship. So I was there ready to go. The transition to first team cricket was there was a step up, but it's not as big as the step is now. So that was the beauty of the amount of cricket we played at that sort of level. And the other thing is, I'd already played my first match was against the West Indies touring side. So my first class wicket was Desmond Haynes. So my second was Richard Richardson, and I remember it vividly. So my first class wicket was Desmond Haynes tried to pull me. He got caught mid-on, and he broke his bat at the same time. So that was thank you very much. My second class wicket was Richard Richardson playing me off the back foot, went straight to Jimmy Cook, nicked it, went straight to Jimmy Cook at first slip. So if I was ever to say that you can actually play at that level, those were 2 pretty serious players to play against. The West Indies team back then was a pretty serious team. So the transition from second team cricket to first team cricket back then wasn't as big as it is now. So that was one of the massive benefits for me. So when I went from first team that first year, 92, I think I took about 70 odd wickets, 74, 76 wickets that first year. That to me was just like being at home. I was just enjoying the atmosphere, learning. And I also had some great support and great captains at the time. So it was, for me, it was, the ball was thrown at me. It was like run with the gauntlet, get on with it, and just enjoy it. And that's what I did the first year. And luckily, I was I was selected to go off and play for the England A down to Australia that end of that year. So it was a great first class start.
I suppose it could also almost be argued, Andrew, that could have been a little omen to what was to follow in terms of one of your most memorable spells ever in international cricket, which I know we're going to talk about a bit later. Getting those two out early in your career, that maybe that served as a little teaser of what was to come with your career, because obviously you finished up with lots and lots of test wickets. I know you and Darren Gough obviously played together in the same side and had a bit of a friendly rivalry. But so moving on. So obviously that first year you impressed and you took wickets. And how did it sort of come about that that sort of developed further in terms of getting into the England setup? You mentioned England A. It was a little while before you got into the England setup, but it wasn't that long considering you had to wait 5 years in the first place.
No, but to me, it was one of those surreal moments because my ambition wasn't to play for New Zealand. It wasn't to play for England. It was to be a first-class cricketer, to make a living and enjoy playing, being a professional cricketer. The bonus for me was being recognised by England, because I can remember vividly. We were playing. I think it was '92, my first class year in '92. We used to play at Clarence Park, which is in Western-super-Mare. So we had a couple of outgrounds. One was Bath, one was Clarence Park. And I remember vividly that that first year when I was playing, doing really well, we were playing at Clarence Park. I can't remember who we were playing against, but there was a request for me to go to the office to answer a phone call. And I went, okay, so I went to the office. And they said, well, there's a phone call for you from New Zealand. I've gone, oh, sorry. Picked up the phone and it was Martin Crowe on the end of the phone. And Martin Crowe, he said to me, look, Andy, I know you're playing for England. You're playing in England. You're doing really well, but we are selecting the touring team to go to Pakistan. Would you like me to consider you as being part of the touring party to come back and play for New Zealand against Pakistan? And I blatantly basically was gobsmacked, first of all, that Martin was on the end of the phone. Secondly, I was gobsmacked. He asked me whether I want to go back and play for New Zealand against Pakistan to be selected for the touring team. And thirdly, I was like, well, quite smacking. I was gobsmacked. I said no, because I was talking to the New Zealand cricket captain at the time. Couldn't believe he was calling me, and I was gobsmacked. I just said, no, I'm not. I haven't spent the last 5 years qualifying to be a professional cricketer to throw that all away. I already knew where my life for the rest of, however how long playing cricket was going to be. It was going to be playing in England. The fact that England then was selected to go on the Australian A tour to Australia, England A tour to Australia, was a great bonus for me. One of the compliments was that myself and Mark Lathwell went on that tour, who I still rated now as one of the best England cricketers ever produced. But unfortunately, he gave it up very early. He didn't like the pressures put on him, and he just wanted a quiet life. But as a player, I would put him up there with the likes of Ricky Ponting. I'd put him up there with the likes of who else is there? Even Joe Root. Now that's how good he was back then, and he was a natural talented player. But I luckily went with someone like Mark on tour. We had a great tour of Australia. It was a good tour, and came back. And lucky I did enough for them to actually consider me for that summer to play against the Australian team in the Ashes in '93.
I know that looking through your sort of your profile, I know that Ken Rutherford, I think, made a comment that he sort of later rued that you came to try your luck in England, and sort of suggested that you slipped through the net for them. But I guess that the decision you made has led you to becoming one of England's finest ever bowlers. I think number 11 on the all-time list. We obviously saw Stuart Broad today go to 500 wickets. But at the time you were playing with Darren Gough, you and Gough together in the England setup were an amazing sort of potent duo. And obviously you took the best part of 500 wickets between you in your careers. How did that sort of rivalry, if you like, sort of come off? Really, was it a friendly rivalry? I mean, I know that finished very close to each other. I think 5 wickets difference in the end. Was there a bet on who was going to
I
finish?
picked him in the end, but no, Darren and I, great character, Darren. He's lion-hearted. He's got a massive heart. He'd run through a brick wall for England. But he was and still is considered as one of the best opening bowlers England's ever produced. Lion-hearted, as I said. He just ran it all day. We complemented each other because he was, with the greatest respect, short and round, and stocky and bulky, and I was tall and gangly. So as far as an opening partnership is concerned, it worked quite well, because if you had two tall men, batsmen will get used to it. But when you've got a skinny bowler who's quick and a tall bowler who's reasonably quick, it just complements each other. So if he was attacking one end, I'd tie up one end. If I was attacking one end, he would tie up the other end. So we worked very well. Now, a lot of people think that we hated each other and we didn't get on. We got on like a house on fire. In fact, there are a number of times when we go training, and the night before a test match in England, we'd go to the pitches. We used to stay at the Swiss Cottage Hotel, married at Swiss Cottage Hotel. And in the middle of the Swiss Cottage is a picture theatre, cinema. So Wednesday night before a test match, you'd be a little bit buzzing, you'd be out and about, whatever. You think, well, Goffy and I might go to the cinema and watch a movie. And we'd sit there and chew on a bit of popcorn, have a Coke, whatever, watch a decent movie, then go to bed. And it just got rid of the nerves the day before, but it just gave you a little bit of normality, so you weren't thinking about what was going to be happening the following day too much. So we would always get on. We had a lot of banter. There's a lot of rivalry as far as bowler to bowler, as far as on the field is concerned. But you need that. I've always said cricket, and I'll always say this, and people curse me for saying it, but cricket's not a team game. It's an individual game. It becomes a team when you need the team support. But as an individual, it's not a team game, because there's not. When I'm facing Brett Lee and he's bowling at nearly 100 mile an hour, there's nobody standing in front of me facing him for me. It's me having to face it. Okay, and it's the same when I'm bowling at Tendulkar or Lara or Ponting or War. There's nobody sitting there going, "Oh, you need to bowl this, you need to bowl that, you need to bowl." Bowling the ball for me, it's me against him. So it's a very much an individual game. I've always said it's a team game when you ask your mate to either catch the ball or chase it to the boundary before it goes for 4. The team comes when the team and the individuals do well. That's when it gels. But as far as a sport's concerned, it's not like football. It's not like rugby. It's an individual game. And that is one of the things that Nasser brought to that team when he took over captaincy in the late 90s, early 2000s. He took his selfish attitude of being an individual to say, do your own thing, do what you do well, and stop worrying about everybody else and just concentrate on yourself. And that was why England at that stage in the early 2000s started to produce and started to do well. So I'll always say it, and people will hate me saying it, but at the end of the day, it is very much an individual game, and it becomes a team game when you need that support from your fellow players. And that's why it's one of the best games as a player and as a sportsman could ever play.
You made a really good point. It is an individual game played by a team, isn't it? So it is one person against another person, essentially, when you're facing. You talked about Nasser Hussain there. I think it's fair to say that Nasser took over the captaincy of England at a time when England were really in the doldrums. And actually, he was the one that started to sort of help improve the fortunes of English cricket. I think it was around sort of late 90s, early 2000s when the England team really started to sort of get back on track. And you must have been thrilled to be part of that and actually, be actually a part of the dressing room that saw that improvement over the years.
Well, it was a pretty big time for English cricket, because between 93, 97, around that sort of period of time, we went from the TCCB, Test and County Cricket Board, to the ECB. And as players, we went from Somerset County players to England players. So whereas you were employed by Somerset and you went on loan to England, and England reimbursed the county for your time away from them, it went the other way. So you became the 19th county, the ECB, and you were employed by the ECB, and the ECB when Somerset wanted you, paid the ECB for your time. So it went completely opposite. Now, the beauty of that was that gave players like myself, especially bowlers, and then towards the end batters, control of when they needed to bowl, how they needed to bowl, preparing themselves for Test cricket in the future. And that's where it is now. That's where now it's probably the best it has ever been. So people like Broad, people like Anderson, the Wokes and the Woods of this world, even the Archers now are starting to benefit. Well, Broad and Anderson benefited because they became part of the team. They became England cricketers and they became players for England. So they were looked after by England. Unfortunately, when we made that transition, there was always the fast fix. England was always looking for the fast fix. So they needed fast bowlers who could take wickets. They needed batsmen who could score runs. And when you're playing against some of the teams we played against, like Pakistan, you're looking at bowlers like Wazam and Wakar, Mushtaq Ahmed. You're looking at Australian teams with the likes they had, the Borders, the two War brothers. You had McGrath, Gillespie. You had, and Warne. Warne was just coming on the side. You had some serious opposition. That was when the game needed the time for players as team players, or should I say England players. They needed the time to actually build their skills, and they could do that under the governance of ECB. So we made that transition to the county champions, to the contracts they have now. So that was a massive transition. And on top of that, when that started, and that was when Nasser had just started taking over, and Duncan, who was the most influential coach we ever had, the two of them gelled very well, and they produced a team that went on to win the Ashes in 2005. So under their not regime, but under their umbrella and under their guidance, that developed the England that it is today. So, Nasser started it with Duncan, and then Vaughan took over it with Duncan, and then it went on from there. So, that is where the transition from, cricketers that were, looked after more by their counties than actually the England team. That's when the transition took over, when they became ECCB contracted players, and they came under the governance of the ECB.
That's fantastic. It was a transitional period, wasn't it? And it really did move English cricket on. I think I was going to ask you there, but the characters in that England side at the time, who was good in the dressing room, who had a few. I always ask this question, and I think some people have been a bit frightened to say anything. What's in the dressing room stays in the dressing room, sort of thing. But is there any sort of funny stories on characters that were?
You have lots of characters. Yeah, Goffey was a massive character. He enjoyed the limelight. He enjoyed the focus on him. He was that sort of bubbly sort of person. He still is today. Tuffers was a character. I remember I played. There was a reason why they called him the Cat. And that was simple fact that he slept more than he played. As simple as that. So I remember playing in an Ashes series, not an Ashes series, an Asia versus the rest of the world series. We played in Dakar. This is one year, I can't remember the year it was, but Kat and I were asked to go and play, represent some of the rest of the world. We came out of a reasonably warm summer. And this was in September, October. And we went off to, it might have been November. I can't remember, but it was back end of the year. So we'd stopped cricket. We'd finished the season. We went to Dhaka. It was 46 degrees. So we've come from the cold winter, going into autumn of England to 46 degrees in Dhaka. Now, Cat, I bowled at my overs and I was seeing stars. That's how hot it was. Chris Kens was the bowler at the other end with me. We were Gul Koku. I was seeing pink elephants when I was bowling. We had Sachin Tendulkar just kept on smacking us to the boundary, scoring runs. It was one of the most fantastic games. But I can remember vividly, Cat came on, he bowled his 9 overs on the trot. He walked off, or he ran off, went straight to the dressing room. And at Dhaka, they had massive bean bags as your chairs. He just curled up in the middle of the bean bag in an air conditioned room. We didn't see him for the rest of the day. We didn't see him for the rest of the night. He was gone. So you've got people like Cat who are very much, they are characters, and it's wonderful to have characters in the dressing room. Goffey was a massive character in the dressing room. Yet back then, I had people like Alan Mullally was a character in the dressing room. I can remember we played. I think it was in South Africa, and one of the crowd yelled at Alan Mullally from the boundary, "Hey, Mullally, lend me your brain. I want to build an idiot." So it was all this banter going on, and those sorts of things. You can always remember it. And then, as far as Goffey was concerned, the one-liners that Goffey would come out were brilliant, such as they call me Rhino because I'm as strong as an ox. Now that was quite common for him to say things like that. There was another time when we were coming to land into Napier into these little aircraft in New Zealand for a one-day game, and he came out with a clanger. It's amazing how low these planes get when they come into land. So, it's characters like that. You just think, you just carry on. But characters in dressing rooms are great, and you've got to be able to have banter in a dressing room. You've got to take the piss out of each other, because at the end of the day, you tend to be with players for quite a long period of time. So you do develop some great relationships with players over the course of the years.
So you mentioned about Nasser there. Was he quite strict in his sort of regime as captain, or could you have a little bit of a laugh with him?
No, you could have a laugh with Nas. He's a great guy, Nas. He was very much labelled as a misery guts, Captain Miserable, and nasty and all that, but he wasn't. He just wanted England to do well. He wanted players to do what they did at their counties. He always used to say to me, Caddy, there's the ball, go and bowl like you do at Somerset. And to have a captain who just backed you and just supported you was brilliant. I remember a couple of test matches we played, I bowled well, and there'll be other people who take the wickets and get the applause, but he'd come up and say, look, Caddy, I remember one vividly against Sri Lanka at Edgbaston. I got 3 wickets in each innings, but there were major wickets in each innings, and I bowled pretty well during that test match. And there was accolades given to other people who scored runs. But he came up to me and said, Caddy, if it wasn't for you and the efforts you put in this test match, we probably would have lost that game. But, bloody well done. You deserve a lot more than you got. And those are the sorts of things that Nasser would do. But the beauty of Nasser was if you drew a line and you stepped over that line, yes, he could turn nasty, because all he was doing was trying to get you to do what he wanted you to do in the space of what you were capable of. He backed you to the hilt, and he'll tell you straight to the face if you're doing something wrong or he needed more out of you. He'd tell you straight to the face. He wouldn't batter and walk away, and he wouldn't sit there telling everybody else about what was going on, and he wouldn't go to the press and do it behind your back. He'd say it to your face. And as a player, there's nothing better than a captain coming out and saying, bloody well done, or that was shit. You need to sort it out. You know where you are then. And I think that is one of the key things to Nas and Duncan. They developed a side where players understood their position in the game, their position in the side. And not only that, it made the players understand your fellow players' benefits in the side. So it was a great era to play in. So, who would have thought we'd gone to Pakistan and won in Pakistan? Who would have thought we'd have gone to Sri Lanka and won in Sri Lanka? Those are 2 massive test series away from home that developed, and as I said, went to the next step to playing towards that Ashes series in 2005.
It's hard to go there, isn't it, and actually win a series. So you're absolutely spot on. It's really interesting there, because it's like, I always feel when I'm coaching, honesty is the best policy. You can't flower something up if it's not there to be flowered up. You've got to be totally there, haven't you?
You need to be straight with people about, this is rubbish. This is where you need to be. And unfortunately now, I don't understand with coaching now. Maybe it's to my detriment, but asking a player to self-analyze himself, I don't think helps. So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you can cut all that out and stop wasting a couple of days trying to explain something to some person trying to analyze themselves to get their own answer out themselves, and just tell them straight. It helps, because you get on with it. I think coaching there has been, I think, pushed too much to the safety conscious and worrying about the attitude of the player, and just tell them straight. Tell them what the way you think it is, and debate it. Because if somebody has the character and you tell somebody that they don't like and they come back at you, all of a sudden there's a debate happening, and out of it people learn. I would learn as a coach, and they'd learn as a player. But if you're always asking the player, what do you think about that? They don't learn because they're not being guided in the right direction. So I think there's a time and a place for that. But more importantly, there's a time and a place for straight honesty. If there's a reason to say, just say it. But, don't blurt it out, but use it as a constructive way of saying it. But get debate going, because at the end of the day, I think debate in cricket is where you learn. And I don't care what anybody says, whether it's cricket, sport, business, commerce, you need to debate things. You need people to talk. That's how businesses work forward.
I couldn't agree more. Actually, it does make a lot of sense. Kieran, I know you've got a couple more questions that you're itching to ask. I know.
I am, yeah. Andrew, as you can probably see, you may not know, but Somerset legend of current times is watching. Jack Brooks is online and has just said hello. So I think he must look up to you quite a lot, because he's a local legend for Oxfordshire. He's Oxfordshire through and through, and he's watching. So hello, Jack. I did see your delivery that you bowled today, where it was hit to slip, but it was up here. But no, good to see you, Jack. I'd like to go now, if we can, to that Test match, Andrew, the one that everybody that remembers your career. I certainly remember watching it live. The West Indies game, when you produced that remarkable spell, 4 wickets in over. I think you nearly got 5, actually, from my recollection. There was one that I think was just past that. It was fantastic. The atmosphere. I believe it was Headingley again. It always seems to be at Headingley these sort of things happen. But you won that game by an innings of 39 runs in what was a low-scoring game. But that spell in the second innings, Andrew, what are your recollections of that? It was obviously, presumably, the best spell of your career, and certainly the atmosphere on the day was just absolutely fantastic.
It was a combination that summer, because West Indies had come to the UK. We'd played at Edgbaston and got absolute trounced. I think it was Edgbaston. And then we were 1-0 down in the series, and we went to Lords. And to us, Lords was the pinnacle. Compared to the 4 wickets in the over in that spell, the Lords spell for me was the underlying best spell I think I've ever bowled, second innings. And it just transformed the game for us. To bowl the West Indies out, and they were still a phenomenal side. They were a very good side. They had some serious players in their team, and they had some hard-hitting players in their team. But to bowl them out for 54, I think it was, or 52, 54, was unheard of, and it just turned the series around on its head. But going on to Headingley, Headingley for me, I do not like bowling down a hill. It is one of those fundamental things I hate. So at Lords, I hated bowling from the main stand end. I love to bowl up the hill at the nursery end, because for me, running down a hill, I need rhythm. I'd run past the crease, so it wouldn't be right, and I'd just keep falling, and it just wouldn't feel balanced at the crease. Running up a hill, you can hit a hill, you can target a hill, and you can set your pace on a hill. So I like bowling at the nursery and at Lords. And then that game at Headingley, I bowled down the hill because Goffey liked bowling up the hill, and in that series, Goffey bowled superbly. We all bowled well. We had Cork, who bowled well. Craig White, who was an unsung hero in that series, he bowled phenomenally well, and he was the quickest of all of us. So he was a quick bowler. But Goffey bowled superbly that series, and he did some damage at the top of the order. And he did it bowling up the hill at Headingley. And I kept saying to Nasser, I want to bowl up the hill, but Goffey kept taking wickets, so he didn't stop bowling. So it wasn't until, I think it was after lunch or after tea, I can't remember which it was, but I finally got my opportunity to bowl up the hill, and everything clicked. As simple as that. It was just a magic spell of, I think it was about 4 or 5 overs, if that. But the beautiful thing was, for me, I hit my rhythm, and even better, the ball swung beautifully. So Goffey was swinging the ball, I was swinging the ball. I can still remember the first LBW, which was Wrigley Jacobs, I think it was. And a lot of the commentators said, "Oh no, that's not out. That's a very fortunate ball." But when they did Hawkeye, it was dead. And fortunately, the next 3 balls, because they all swung, and that over, it was just I think if you gave me the ball again and I was swinging like that, I don't think I'd hit 3 wickets again in the over. It was just an extraordinary day, extraordinary over. When that over, everything clicked. The ball swung. It was it was unbelievable. So, but it was great. But as I said, the Lord's Test match for me was the ultimate, because walking back down the nursery end when we bowled the West Indies out, they're on the and I had the wickets 5 for. The atmosphere at Lords was unbelievable. It was spine chilling. But then, the spell at Headingley was more or less from the Test matches before. It was just onward going, and it was a great series for England.
And you're going to be in the annals of history for that. Obviously, being on the honours board at Lords, there's not many cricketers in the world that will ever have that opportunity, and you're on there. I was just going to go back to the Headingley Test. Obviously, that spell that you bowled was fairly late in the day, and I think the Western Terrace were certainly in good voice. In terms of atmospheres, would you say Headingley was one of the best vocal atmospheres? I know Lords have their own sort of demographic of a supporter, but Headingley always to me seems to be the one that sort of gives the most noise.
They do. They had the big stand there. That big stand had just been built a few years before, and it was a massive stand. It was Headingley are as you know, Lords, you can't go undressed up as a nun or a fuzzy duck or anything. It's just very prim and proper. That's why Lords to me was one of the most amazing days because of that. It was a very much a hierarchy of what you should be doing as a spectator, but that day went out the window. It was wonderful. Headingley, you're right. There are some atmospheres around the world. Headingley is one of them. But Headingley, you're right. Once the Northerners get a bit of ale in them, they're non-stop. So the chanting was great. The worst thing for them though was it was over in 2 days. So those people who had tickets the third or fourth day, they wouldn't have been drinking, so they were all sent home. And the worst thing for us was that second night, we had a great night out in Headingley. Problem for me and Goffey was because we'd done so well to be back at the ground at 10 o'clock in the morning with hangovers to do the press. So there's some pitfalls of doing well in Test cricket, but no, it was a great Test. But the atmosphere at Headingley is it's legendary. It's a great atmosphere. But those days, 2001, I think was a great summer for English cricket, and going forward, it was even better as it went forward.
I wanted to move on and ask you about some of the players that you've played against. One of the players that you would have played against, which is the biggest sort of West Indian legend of recent times, Brian Lara. You must have bowled at him quite a lot in your career. And what did you make of him? Was he impossible to get out, or was he just a different class above it? It's something that I've always wanted to speak to.
He was easy to get out, especially after he got 375. He was great. Simplest player to get out in the world. I rated that stage. Brian was untouchable at that stage. He was the best batter the world had ever seen. He was untouchable. The day he got 375, that morning, he had already played 9 holes of golf in Antigua, so he was relaxing. And the funny thing with Brian is he plays golf left or right-handed. He's just as good with both sides, with both sets of clubs. So, but Brian, as far as I was concerned, he was hard work. He had everything. He could hook, he could pull, he could slide. He could do everything. He was such a wonderful player. I didn't play a lot against Sachin because there was no sort of back then. There was no India wasn't touring every third, fourth year. In fact, it was the ICC, one of the ICC rules that every county had to play, or should I say, every country had to play home and away in the space of I think it was 6 years. It was a 6 year or 5 or 6 year cycle, so you're always playing home and away. We didn't do that against the Indians. I played a lot against the West Indies. I toured there twice. Played I think it was 2 or 3 series at home. I played a lot against Australia at home, and I was unfortunate. I wished I'd played more away on the Ashes series, but I was fortunate to go in the 2003 series. They had some wonderful players. The War brothers. I started against Alan Border. He was my first international wicket. Was Alan Border, caught and bowled. I still remember that one. But I'm looking at my age now when I'm saying I played against Alan Border, but he was a wonderful player. Mark Taylor, Border. You had some fantastic players in the era that I played those 10 years from 93 to 2003. But yeah, out of all of them, Brian, I think, was the best. He was untouchable. The fact he got 375, then he came to England and got 405. I think he got he got 500 or something for Warwickshire. And then he went back in the series I didn't go to in the West Indies. He got another 405, whatever. So phenomenal player. But at that era, untouchable, I think.
I think what's always nice about a nice story about Brian Lara is the record highest run scorer was held for years by Len Hutton. Then it was held for years by Sir Garfield Sobers. Then it was held for quite a long time by Brian Lara. And then Matthew Hayden broke it for about 20 days. And then Lara broke it again. Yeah. Always good to see an Aussie knocked off the perch straight away. And that was really good.
I'm not saying nothing.
I've read the book. He was very happy about that. So I think, Daryl, we'll sort of go on talking more about characters that you play, but we've already done that. I'd like to just know, so we've mentioned Lara. The best bowler that you've ever faced when you did bat? I know you were a lower order batter, but obviously you played against the best players in the world. Who would you say in other sides would be the best bowler that you've seen?
Well, there's nobody better than Shane Warne, was there? So he just made you look like an absolute idiot. So even made Gat look an idiot the first time he bowled in the UK. So I'll get that back at Gat. But no, Brian, I've played against Sharp. I didn't bat a lot against Sharp, thankfully. Played a lot against Brett Lead. He was quick. Played a lot against Glenn McGrath. But by far, Shane Warne. Shane Warne made you look an absolute idiot. And he not only did it with the ball, but he did it with the mouth as well. So, phenomenal player. Best there's ever been. Best I think we'll ever see. And there's some massive shoes to fill in the fact that Shane Warne has been and will be, I think, legendary. He still is. He still will be. I don't think anybody's going to touch his record as far as spin bowling is concerned. And I don't, you look at the number of countries around the world have had their spin bowling clinics. What have they been trying to do? They've been trying to produce another Shane Warne. So, it's a phenomenal player. For me, definitely Shane Warne. I played more against Shane than the Seamers because every time I went into bat, they just put Warney on. That was simple.
I was just going to ask one other thing about your bowling. So I think that early in your career, or when you were sort of growing up in your formative years, is it right that you sort of modelled your action early days on the New Zealand legend Richard Hadley, who obviously was, I think, the greatest bowler that New Zealand ever produced, and I gather that that's kind of somebody that you tried to emulate early in your career.
It wasn't really, because I used to be a big chest-on bowler. You remember Lance Kens, who used to play for New Zealand many years ago? So I was a big chest-on bowler, and I used to bowl big in-swingers, big lanky in-swinger. The one benefit I had playing in New Zealand for underage groups, the New Zealand Cricket Council every year for 2 consecutive years, when I think it was when I was 16 and 17, might have been when I was 17, 18. They used to employ Dennis Lilly to come across and do a fast bowlers clinic in New Zealand. So he'd spend 2 days of the week. So he'd do a Monday, Tuesday in Auckland. He'd fly down to Christchurch on a Wednesday, and he'd do Thursday, Friday in Christchurch. So all the North Island bowlers, fast bowlers, went to Auckland. All the South Island bowlers went to Christchurch. They were the best clinics as a fast bowler you could ever go to. So anybody who was playing underage group, who was quick, could be put forward by their district, their county, whatever, into these clinics. Now Dennis changed me completely from being a front-on bowler to a side-on bowler, and I went all the way around. I went too far around, but the beauty of it, what it did for me, is it used my long levers. So I went from bowling probably, 75 mile an hour in swingers to 85 mile an hour quickie bowler. Because I remember going back the following week, I'd played a club game for Riccarton, who I used to play for, against Old Collegian, which used to play at a little place called Elmwood Park. And I came into bowl, completely changed, and I hit this bloke in the side of the rib. And he went down like excuse my French, like a sack of shit. Because I just bowled, I reckon, about 2-3 yards quicker. And it just came out of nowhere. But the benefit from that for me was Dennis then came back the following year. I went to that session again. And this is the thing that I think makes all the difference to youngsters. If you have people of that caliber coaching you, people like Dennis Lilly coaching you, it makes you stand up and listen to these people because they have history. They're experts. They are legends. And that's what I did. I listened. But the benefits as well of that clinic was this. Richard Hadley was there as well. Okay. And he was then talking about the mental preparations for fast bowling because Dennis and Lilly, well, Lilly was Hadley's idol. And there was Hadley used to say, there was 4 things he used to say before he bowled every ball. Rhythm, Lilly, hate, off stump. Those were the 4 key words he used to say every time he used to bowl. Rhythm, Lilly, hate, off stump. Every single ball he said he used to say that, and it focused him on his game, on that ball and that over. But one of the other things that was really important for as a fast bowler, there was sessions that we went out and bowled in the nets, and there was one key player we used to turn up and bowl against, and it wouldn't be, it's not Joe Bloggs, who's just a net player, comes in. So as a youngster, you were coming in bowling with Dennis Lee talking to you about how to bowl and how to bowl quick. You're bowling at the then New Zealand captain, Martin Crowe. So Martin Crowe would come along to these fast bowling clinics, who was then the New Zealand up-and-coming captain, main batter for New Zealand. You were bowling at Martin Crowe. And I remember vividly Dennis Lilly saying to you as a 17-year-old, go on, son, knock his effing head off. So you're running in at the New Zealand premier batsman trying to knock his head off. And that's what Dennis was trying to teach you, to be aggressive, to be controlling, but be aggressive as the way you bowl. So that's what I'm trying to say. As far as players these days and up-and-coming players, you need the generation that is showing and the legends of now and legends of before to help develop those young players. So that's what did it for me. I used to come off a very long run. I didn't shorten my run to the run I did now because the long run was just too long, and it just took too long to bowl and over, and it was knackering. And I said to myself, how do I shorten my run up, and who could help me? I just went, there's only one fast bowler in the world that's actually shortened his run up, got the rhythm, and done the damage, and that was Hadley. So I changed my run up to a shorter run up based on what Hadley did. It wasn't he who should I say, coached me in those younger years. It was Dennis Lilly who helped coach me in those younger years and progressed me to the bowler I was today.
That certainly wouldn't be a bad person to sort of feed off of, and another legend of the game. It's been fantastic, sort of talking about your sort of formative years, Andrew, and how you developed. And actually, I think it gives quite a good sort of insight into. We've got a lot of young people, youngsters watching this every week from Oxfordshire and beyond. And every week we ask this question, and you've kind of already answered it actually in terms of what advice you would give to a young up-and-coming cricketer, particularly a bowler, because that's your sort of trump card, so to speak. So the advice that you'd give is essentially be yourself, but also listen to advice and take on board, I guess, what works for you.
Yeah, well, it was I came into the England side in the early 90s, and we had a gentleman there as a coach called Jeff Arnold, and Jeff was very good. He would talk to you. He'd try and encourage you. He'd try things with you, and it was always encouraging. And then you had people like Bob Cuttom who came on board, and then you had other bowling coaches come on. But at the end of the day, I'd always go back to listening and thinking what Dennis used to say to me. I remember vividly my A tour to Australia. We went to Perth to play a 4-day game there. I didn't actually plan the game, but during the lunch intervals, I'd go out and I'd bowl. And lo and behold, I was out there bowling in the middle, and Dennis Lilly turned up and walked out to the middle. He remembered who I was in New Zealand, and he came up and said, Hi Andy, how are you? how you go? And he stood there for 5-10 minutes and he talked to me about what I was doing and what I was trying to do. Now that, again, is the one thing that I would suggest any young cricketer does. And that is, don't be frightened if somebody comes to coach or somebody comes to watch who's been at that level. Go and ask them a question. What do you think about this? What do you think? Don't be frightened to do it. You know, I tell you, 99% of the players who've played at that level will happily sit there and talk to you. That is where you learn. Okay, as players, we learn more in the bar after the game, talking to the opposition. For something like Somerset, we used to go down because the ground at Somerset, the change rooms were below, were above, should I say, the main bar in the ground. So you'd come down from the dress rooms, you walk into the bar, the opposition would be there, you'd have a few drinks, and you talk about the game. And it was the same playing Test cricket in the early days. You'd walk into the opposition dress room, you talk about the game. Because that's what cricketers do. It doesn't matter what culture you came from or what country you came from or what county you played for. Talk. So don't be frightened as a youngster. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, how are you as a player, an ex-England player, an ex-county player," ask them a question. What do you think about this? What do you think? They will more than happily give you advice. That's my saying. So don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you won't find out and you will never learn. And whatever advice you get, don't think, "Oh, no, that's rubbish." Because one day, the bit of advice you had 4 years ago might be relevant to the way your game's developed now. So as far as youngsters are concerned, take all that information, store it away, and then one day you might find that that little bit of information you had 2 years before or 6 months before with a coach might be relevant to what you're doing today. And that might be as batting, bowling, or as spin, or even wicket keeping. So try and be a sponge and don't be afraid to ask a question. That would be my advice to the youngsters today.
That's really good advice. Daryl's actually used that phrase before about being a sponge and taking in all the information and sort of analysing the information that you get. And if you put it all together, you're going to potentially, develop yourself into the cricketer you want to be. Daryl, I'll hand back to you. Obviously, we'd like to talk a little bit, Andrew, about why we're doing this and why we've been doing this for the last 15 weeks, which is the Lord's Taverners, which I know is a charity really close to your heart, Daryl. If you want to... he's just modelling with his index finger our link to the Masked Cricketer Just Giving page, which you can go to and donate to that charity. We've said several times we're getting 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 viewers a week. If everybody donated 50p, then we'd be really doing very well for this charity. It's not just about raising funds; it's about raising awareness. But Daryl, over to you to talk about the Lord's Taverners with Andrew.
Yeah, I know you do a lot of work talking to Mervyn as well. How did that come about, and what are you sort of in the process of doing with the tabs at the moment? I know it's quite difficult, but
Taverners came about not mainly with the head office in London. Taverners came about a lot with the Channel Islands because. Back in the day, there was a gentleman called Mike O'Hara used to do a benefit match each year. So you'd take a county would go across, and the beneficiary of that year would play against, say, Somerset beneficiary might play against and Notts team beneficiary at the end of the summer, and the winning team would come back the next year to play another opposition team, it might be Sussex or whatever. And from that developed into the Lord's Taverners for me, because the Lord's Taverners in Guernsey asked me to come and support them on the island, which I did. Now, I've been back and forth to Guernsey with the Lord's Taverners, I think, for the last 20 odd years. I think it was last year. It's unfortunate it's not happening this year, but last year was probably about my 20th, 22nd year of going back and forth. So it might be even longer than that, to be honest. But then the affiliation came with head office when they started playing a lot more cricket. So I've been involved with the head office and Lord's Taverners there probably for the last 10, 12 years. But it's just about supporting something that we all enjoy, the game of cricket. And the benefits are the people who benefit from it. So those children that the charity supports, it's a fantastic charity. And it allows those children to experience what sportsmen would have experienced when they played, but on a lower level, whether that's actually playing table tennis, cricket, or actually out there playing other sports. So it's not just about cricket they support. They support a massive range of sport for disadvantaged children. But it's a great charity because it's giving to those people who are, they're more or less suppressed because of the environment they live in, and the chances for them to get out and about in the green minibuses, which is a massive use of an item that a lot of people, from these homes and from these specialist units, don't get the opportunity. These kids don't get an opportunity to get out in society. So that for them is massive. That's why when you see those green buses, they're used every day, most of the days, to transport children to various events. But it's a massive charity. As I said, I've been involved in it for a number of years. I enjoy the cricket. I enjoy the times we spend with each other, as far as on little tours or around the country playing some great village cricket, some great cricket local club teams. But it's a fantastic charity, and it's always a charity that I'll always be associated with and happy to help.
Fantastic words, Andrew. I'm going to come in at this point because I've got to show Oxford
I
Downs.
know what's coming.
That's in my contract. I have to mention Oxford Downs, Andy. On the 31st of August. You're busy.
Sorry.
Definitely. No, we need you. I need an
I'm sorry. I've got to dig the garden. I still haven't done it yet.
Oh, I did my best. Yeah, I will just plug it anyway. 31st of August, Lord's Taverners versus the Masked Cricketers game at Oxford Downs Cricket Club. Details will follow, but we're looking forward to that.
Now, just get one thing straight. If I do play, I'm definitely not wearing that hat.
You don't have to wear the hat.
I was sweating like hell in that hat. And
well done for not
hurry up and guess who I was, because that was steaming up in my visor. I'm definitely not playing in that helmet.
Andrew, about 6 weeks ago, we had a local cricketer who came in at the last minute due to technical issues, and the only mask he could do was a homemade mask with a Sainsbury's bag, and it was the hottest day of the year, and he had 2 eye holes and with a Sainsbury's bag on, and we deliberately kept him under it for a very long time. We were a bit concerned.
That's what we do. I know we've gone well past the hour, Andrew, and it's been great spending some time with you. I do want to just do some quick fire questions, if I may, to finish off.
I'll make the answers short, I promise.
Not as short as Kieran's questions, I'm sure, because they do tend to be a bit long. He's smiling. He's smiling. I wanted to mention a person that I actually had the privilege of playing against you as well, but also a chap called Von Truce, who played at Somerset for a short period of time. And in Freddie Flintoff's autobiography, said it's the fastest bowler he had ever faced. And it was certainly quick when I faced him. Was he, destined for big things, do you think? I know injury curtailed his career.
Yeah, no, he was quick. I remember when I'm talking about when I started playing back in the early 90s, when I was still qualifying, and when I was talking about second team cricket in the UK, okay, this is what I'm talking about, how good second team cricket was in the UK. The opening attack, we had a game against Lancashire at Taunton. And the opening attack for Somerset, and funny enough, Jason Kerr, and there was a bloke called Jason Kerr and Andy Payne who were in the opposition for Lancashire. Now, Jason Kerr is the Somerset coach. The opening attack for Somerset in that game was Caddick, Von Troost, Kenneth Benjamin, little fella called Hungry Walsh, little West Indian, and I can't remember the Australian, Ken McClay. Now, Ken McClay was a fantastic West Australian cricketer, all-rounder. He was a bit like a Terry Alderman as far as the bowling world is concerned, and he could bat as well, which Terry couldn't. But that was our opening attack, okay? Now, all those, there was one fella that was quicker than all of them. And it wasn't Rooster, it wasn't me, and it wasn't Kenneth. It was a little fella called Hungry Walsh. He was only about 5'8", but he was quick. And he was so quick that the warm-up nets games before the warm-up nets before these games, he was playing as a trialist. Somerset batsmen, even the first team batsmen, wouldn't get in the nets with him. That's how quick, because he kept bumping people on the head. And the other thing is, they wouldn't get in the nets with Rooster either. So that was the sort of mentality and the sort of grade we were playing. In fact, if you had a trialist, there was a gentleman who Peter Robinson was then the Somerset coach, and he used to get trialists come in, and these trialist batsmen would come in, and he just turned to us, turned to us quartet and say, "See that lad there? He wants to take your job." So we'd run in and terrorise them. But the beauty of that was, it saw straight away whether they had the bottle or not to be good cricketers. And that was the difference between now and then. You couldn't do that now. It wouldn't be politically correct to do that and terrorise a youngster coming in and bowling cricket. But that was a standard. Now, Rooster, you did say that about Andrew Flintoff saying that. There was another player who said that, and I value this player's opinion more than Freddie Flintoff's. Rooster played a game. This is when I had my shin problems back in '95. He played a game at Bath when we used to play at Bath. I think it was Middlesex. Desmond Haynes was playing. Now Desmond Haynes came out and was verbally said to say that's the quickest spell of bowling he has ever faced in world cricket, and that was from Andre von Troost. So he was phenomenal. He was quick. He was tall. It was frightening as far as batsmen concerned. And what summed it up for me, we played a game against Worcester at Taunton. Tim Curtis was opening the batting for Worcester. First ball, Rooster comes into bowl. Tim lifted the bat up. Before he even moved, Rooster hit him in the head. First ball of the game. Now, Tim Curtis was a very good player of pace bowling. In fact, he went on and got 100 after that. But the first ball, he hit Tim Curtis in the head with the first ball. So he was quick. And it was just unfortunate. There was little rumblings going on at the time that he could qualify and play for England. That's how good he was. Unfortunately, he got a few injuries. He got a bit of the yips. And then, unfortunately for him, it just fell apart. But we lost something that was truly awesome at Somerset in Von Troost. So he was, you could go any player. Alex Stewart will tell you exactly the same. They played a game at the Oval. Rooster bowled them out because the batsman didn't want to go and face him. That's how quick he was. So, you ever ask Stewart the question, Alex Stewart, he'll give you that answer. So, phenomenal player. Just a real shame that his career came to such a sudden end.
That's absolutely. I mean, the question I'm obviously going to ask you what superpower, you can have a time to think about that one, what superpower you would have. But my last question around cricket really is the World Cup squad of 2003, where I think Jimmy Anderson made his debut. Was there signs there that he could go on to be one of the best fast bowlers that England have produced, do you think? Was there signs?
There were signs, but he was a youngster. He's a bit of a terrorist, or should I say tearaway? I shouldn't really use that word terrorist, but tearaway at the time. He also had that unfortunate, they picked up on it very quickly, where when he delivered the ball, his head was looking the other way. And, the press, again, back then, they got stuck into him. And then he lost a little bit, and thankfully went back to Lancashire for a couple of years, and he learnt his trade again, slightly remodeled his action, and came back into the side. I think it was 2004-05. So, and that's when he established himself just after that. But yeah, no, you don't really know at that stage how good you're going to be, because you may be good at first class level, but the step up from first class to test level is quite big. And it's not just about the bowling attitude or being an ability. It's about the discipline of actually saying to yourself, look, this is what I've got to do, and the pressure of doing it. Luckily, when he started coming onto the scene, because you had ECB and you were part of a contracted player, you were looked after. Prior to that, when I was playing early 90s, back in 95, 96, you had so much pressure on you, not only from the press, you had it from the coaches, you had it from the selectors. more. But then again, you had it on yourself because you knew that if you didn't perform, you could be out, and you might be out for a test series, might be out for a year, and they go around in a cycle, and then you come back into the fray again, and the pressure was always on you. But as far as Jimmy was concerned, I think there was signs of it, but it wasn't until he came back after that little spell going back to Lancashire, where he remodeled his action a little bit, and then started learning his trait and the skills that he has now, to becoming the phenomenon he has been for England and continues to be.
Yeah. Kieran, I know you might want to just finish off for your side of things.
Yeah, I'll leave you to ask the superpower question. Andrew, from me, I just want to say a massive thank you for spending some time with us this evening. An hour and a half with me, that's worth a knighthood, to be honest, spending all that time with me and with Daryl. So thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing for the Lord's Taverners. The 31st of August at Oxford Downs, Daryl, at Oxford Downs is going to be a fantastic event. We're going to look to hopefully the lockdown is obviously eased quite considerably now. Hopefully we'll be able to have some people there watching and getting involved in what will be a really good day. Andrew, if you can make it, if you can put your mowing your lawn off for a day.
I will probably be there.
Very good of you. You might even get to play with.
No,
I
will probably be there.
I might even get selected myself. Daryl might even pick me in the side. I doubt it, actually, because he does actually coach me, and I'm rubbish, believe me. But no, from me, Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. You were one of, I don't want to make you sound old at all because it's not meant, but you were one of the first sort of players I really looked up to when I was sort of watching cricket, when I was sort of growing up, to be honest. And it's amazing to, Daryl says it every week, it's amazing to have you on the same screen as us and talking to you. And thank you again. And thank you for everything you do for the Lord's Taverners. Daryl's got the final question, which is his pièce de la résistance, I suppose, but he's given you a bit of time, so I'll send it over to Daryl, and then we'll just wrap up our last one just with a few bits and pieces at the end. So Daryl, over to you, Smashy or Nicey or whoever you are, to finish this one off.
Superpower, Andy, what would it be?
Being invisible.
We've had that before.
Yeah, I'd be invisible because you'd have a lot of fun with being invisible.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you, 100%, to be fair. As Kieran's already said, the thank yous, but yeah, big thank you from me as well to be our 15th and final Masked Cricketer of this series. Guys, we are coming back. I'm sorry, but we are coming back. On the 29th of September, we will be back in your living rooms after the cricket season's finished. So hopefully you can join us for that. I will say a massive thank you to everybody who's taken part in the last 15 weeks. I won't mention everybody, but it's just been brilliant to get everybody together. We've had I've had an absolute ball with it. It's been great fun, but it's been really interesting as well. We've seen it from so many different angles. It's just been a really sort of a great roller coaster ride, as something that's got a little bit more popular along the way, as well as doing it for charity. Now, the one thing I said at the beginning, Ian Pont's record was no parachute. I don't just throw this together, Kieran. I am actually going to say now, this is live on Facebook and YouTube. If we get to 1,000 Facebook members on our group and we get £2,000 in the donation pot for the Lord's Taverners, I will do a skydive.
Oh, wow.
I actually...
I'll make sure he does it because he'll jump out my helicopter. That'll be... I'll take him there. Make sure he does it.
I'm absolutely up for that.
I will rent a helicopter for the day and I'll push you out myself.
For putting you through this. Yeah, absolutely. Get your own back. That is brilliant. I mean, it's something I don't want to do, guys. I'm absolutely petrified of heights. So I'm going to do it.
I'm of the opinion, why jump out of a perfectly sound aircraft? I just don't understand it. So
what am I doing? I don't know, but I've said it now. So
we need
donations are going to fly in now. The donations are going to fly in. So Daryl is going to jump out of an aircraft if we can get 1,000 members. and was it £2,000 raised? Did you say?
Yeah.
Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's get that. That we definitely worth it. And Andrew, if it's in your helicopter, I would love to join you, and I'll push him out.
Well, it won't be in mine, but I'll rent one for the day just to make sure he does it.
Fantastic. I'd very happily push him out.
I was going to say it's sort of a date, but it's not a date I'm really going to relish, if I'm honest. But there we go. Thanks again, Andrew. Stay with us just offline, just till we finish. But again, like I say, a big thank you to everybody that's joined us over the past 15 weeks. We've had a ball. We've raised a bit of awareness for the Lord's Taverners. Please donate down on that Just Giving page. We will be back. We've obviously got the game on the 31st of August, so it's about halfway between now and coming back live. And we have got, I have to say, our first 3 weeks that we've booked people in are absolutely fantastic. So, you know, you'd be silly to miss our second series, hopefully.
I will say on behalf of the Lord's Taverners, guys, brilliant effort. 15 weeks of all this, whatever it's been. But brilliant effort. Thank you for supporting the Lord's Taverners, and I can assure you there are a lot of people out there that will continue supporting you and will support this this masked cricketer, or should I say masked entertainer, or should I say masked celebrity, whatever it is. I'm sure they'll
He wants to be.
I don't know.
But thank you for your efforts from the Lord's Taverners. We really do appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. It really is. But thank you for those kind words. Guys, all for me to say really is thanks again. See you in a couple of months. And don't forget, when you come back, it's hashtag #AskTheMask. Cheerio for now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.